Greetings and welcome to the Introduction to Astronomy. In this week's Astronomy of Other Cultures, we continue our discussion of astronomy of the Muslim world with the astronomer known as Ibn Rushd. So let's go ahead and get started here. Ibn Rushd was also known by the Latinized version of the name known as Averroes, and he lived from about 1126 until 1198, and he worked on astronomy, philosophy, and medicine, over 100 works, and his work was done in what was now Morocco. So what did he do in astronomy? Well, as we've heard with several of the most recent astronomers that we've looked at in this series, had a problem with what is known as the eccentric and the epicycle, and those were very important with in Ptolemy's system for determining the positions of the planets, and we see them here. And as we recall, hopefully, the epicycle is the circle on which the planet appears to move, while that circle orbits around the central part of the solar system. The Earth is offset from the central part, and on the other side of that center from the Earth is what is known as the eccentric. Now, these were very troubling to a lot of astronomers of the time because what he wanted to do was to suggest a more uniform circular motion around the Earth, going back to the ideas of Aristotle. So some of the problems were that it was then very difficult at the time of Ptolemy, 1,000 years before this, to really accurately predict the positions of the planets this way. And we're starting to really get a transition here because Ptolemy, maybe not considering that this was physically how things worked, but that it was a convenient calculating device, that this was a way to be able to calculate. It was, in essence, a mathematical description of this. So we're really seeing a transition here between a mathematical description of the universe and a physical understanding. So in a mathematical description, you don't need to worry about what is really physically happening, because what your idea there is that you want to be able to predict the position of the planets. And if you can tell where that planet is going to be next month by using this model, it doesn't matter whether that model is actually physically true. Now we're trying to transition to get a physical understanding of how the universe also works. Now, one of the other things that he had done here was to observe sunspots. Now, sunspots can actually be seen without a telescope. Now, this is not one of his observations. This is actually here. We're looking at an image of the sun, and we can see some sunspots there. But if you see that object up to the upper right-hand side, that is not a sunspot. That is actually a planet. This is actually a transit. So this is what Averroes thought he was seeing when he saw sunspots, when there were large groupings, either right before sunset, right after sunrise, when the sun was very low in the sky and you could actually look at it. He thought that he was seeing transits of the inner planets, Mercury and Venus. But in this case, he was actually seeing some of the larger sunspots. It turns out those transits are very, very rare. Unusual for Mercury or Venus to pass directly in front of the sun. It does happen. We see an image of it here, but not something that happens all the time. Now, one of the other things that Averroes did was to really be able to, again confirm the spherical nature of the Earth. And that's because he observed the star Canopus and was able to observe it from Marrakesh. Now, what that means is that the Earth has to be spherical because the star could not be seen if you went further north. And that meant new stars were becoming visible as you traveled farther and farther south, making the spherical Earth hiding them over its horizon in this case. So let's go ahead and finish up with our summary and what we've looked at today. We studied Ibn Rushd, who lived from 1126 to 1198. known for work on astronomy, philosophy, and medicine, as well as other fields, criticized the use of eccentrics and epicycles as not the way the universe actually works. So again, we're getting that transition into really a physical understanding of the universe rather than just a mathematical method of calculating how things worked. So that concludes our discussion on Ibn Rushd, otherwise known as Averroes, by his Latinized name. We'll be back again next week to talk about another astronomer of the Muslim world. So until then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you in class.